We are now in part 5 of our discussion of Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. And here we introduce the notion of the highest good, what it is, and whether it exists. So, if one good is sought for the sake of another, and that good in turn sought for the sake of another, and that last good is sought for the sake of another, etc., should we say that this chain of goods simply goes on indefinitely, without an end, or an ultimate and fundamental end? For example, if we choose to eat breakfast for the purpose of having energy, and we choose to have energy for the sake of going to school, and we choose going to school for the sake of education, and we choose to have education for the sake of having a better job, and we choose to have a better job for the sake of having more money and time, and we choose to have more money and time for the sake of having a house and going on vacations and buying various things, etc. Does this list of purposes or goods simply go on indefinitely and without an end and without a final and ultimate purpose and good? There are 3 points to be made here. 1, each successive good is superior to the preceding good. For example, in the example above, energy is a superior good to breakfast, and education is a more superior good to both breakfast and energy. The more final, the later, the good is in the chain, the more superior the good is. Ends justify the means, not the other way around. Not in the sense that any means can be undertaken to reach an end, not in that sense, but in the sense that the reason why that means is undertaken at all is due to the end. And if that end was not pursued, then the means would not be undertaken either. If we were not ultimately aiming to go on vacations and buy things, then we wouldn't eat breakfast in the morning, to use our example, previous example. Second point, we recognize a concept of the highest good here. We have asked whether there is the highest good at the end of the chain or not. The highest good is that good for the sake of which all other goods are pursued, but it is not pursued for the sake of any other good. Note that the highest good may not be the last in the temporal chain of goods, but it is the last in the logical chain of goods. For example, an athlete may train, compete, and then train again. In the temporal order, training comes after competition, that latest training. But in the logical order, competing is always the last and the highest good here, even though it appears to be second in the temporal order. Third point, Aristotle argues that there is and must be the highest good. He argues that in order for us to understand and have knowledge about any of the previous goods, then there must be the highest good that is definite. If it was not definite, then it would not be possible to know. And since the purpose of our thinking, discussion, and inquiry in ethics is knowledge about how to choose the goods that we pursue, then there must be a definite highest good that we have to figure out in our inquiry. In other words, to go with our example, in order for us to know what kind of a breakfast to eat, in order for us to know what kind of an education to get, we have to know that ultimately, in the end, we're doing this for the sake of, in that example, having more time and having more money, right? That would point to different types of breakfasts and educations that we would get in our example.